Ahava and blessings. Welcome to this episode of Hold the Shekhinah. This podcast is here to guide us and support us during this ascension journey, during our spiritual awakening and embodiment, supporting us to embody, integrate, activate, and remember our soul essence. I am your host and guide. My name is Arya. I am an ordained Magdalene priestess, Reiki master, energy and sound healer. And I am your guide on this journey. So these content episodes have been focused on channelings I receive. And recently, the topic of lineage has come up very strongly. It's been coming up in sessions, in conversations with my friends, and also within. This Pisces new moon that we just had really has activated a lot of remembrance within me, as I'm sure it has within you. There's a lot of energy going on, and there's a lot of opportunity to clear, to heal, and to activate. Now, when it comes to lineage, it can be a touchy subject, as so much of the Western world has had their culture, their true culture, pretty much erased. So whether you're American or you are French, Italian, although Italians seem to have kept a stronger hold of over their native practices, although to some degree not so much, because the Roman Empire also obliterated a lot of the history. But certain pockets still retain a lot of their cultural land-based traditions. We can call them indigenous traditions because they are native to those lands. Just like there are indigenous people in the Americas, in North, South America, in the Caribbean, there are also indigenous people in Australia, in Asia, China, Japan, in Indonesia, in Africa, and in all parts of Europe. So wherever you come from in this current moment, know that your roots go far deeper than what you think. Most of us, especially here in America, we tend to think of ourselves as only American, or we only identify with certain aspects of our history and not others. And that is spiritual bypassing. We, as a collective, it is important for us to acknowledge and pay reverence and homage to all of our lineages, particularly those that we have, how do I say this? Those lineages that we have decided aren't good enough and that we are somehow superior, and we chose to eradicate them. That happened very much here in the U.S. with the Native Americans, and then there comes with that the subject of cultural appropriation. And that is an important subject because unfortunately here in the U.S., the true Native traditions are indigenous. And someone who is not of that lineage really should be wary of invoking that lineage as your own without having done the work to pay homage, reverence, and ask forgiveness of the land and of the tradition. Because know that wherever you come from, unless you are of the first tribes and you trace your lineage to the Native Americans of this land, or of whatever land you're on, whether it's South America, which also suffered a lot of colonialism, whether it's India, wherever you are, unless you are completely indigenous, native to that land, you really have no business practicing those practices. And I'm probably going to get a lot of flack for this, and that's fine. You have no business practicing those practices and using those sacred plant medicines unless you have actually done the shadow work to decolonialize your mind, your spirit, your body, and to ask forgiveness of the land that you are on. Now, that is a practice, the reverence of the land that I am on. That is a practice that I engage in every day, and I do the work to give offerings to the land that I'm on. Currently, I was in Los Angeles, which is, the Angelinos, like, wow, Tongva, which was the Tongva land. I did reverence and homage to those lands when I was there. And now I am in Georgia, and I am paying homage to the natives of this land, which were the Creek. And I'm doing my best to learn more about the lineage here on this land that I am on. And still, I pay offerings to the land, and I ask the spirits of the land for guidance. But before I even ask for guidance, I make it a habit to just give offerings. Even if that offering is water, even if that offering is a prayer or drumming or singing, that's an offer. So before you take any plant medicine, and by plant medicine, I don't mean ayahuasca. I mean, that is a plant medicine, or shrooms. I mean white sage, salvia piana. I mean palo santo. I mean like those endangered and indigenous plant medicines that are specific to certain lineages. Before you do that, I really would invite you to pay attention to why you're doing it. And if you're simply just copying what someone posted about on the internet, or you saw somewhere and, or they sell it at Sephora, so somehow it's the in thing to do. Before you do that, really ask yourself why. Why are you doing it? Are you doing it to follow the crowd, or are you simply doing it unconsciously, or is there really some deep desire for you to learn? And if there is a deep desire for you to learn about spirituality, then I would urge you to find other ways than misusing sacred medicines like salvia piana, which is endangered. And unfortunately, most of the time, it's unethically harvested, often from native lands in the Southwest, in California, and on reservations, which is another topic that I don't even want to get into, because that also is a pain point here in the United States. Palo Santo as well is a sacred plant. It's a sacred tree. And again, it's also endangered. So or copal. I don't think copal is endangered. It's a Mexican lineage plant. Even cacao. Cacao is also indigenous to Guatemala, Mexico, I think Nicaragua as well. And those medicines, like, we really need to exercise greater consciousness, greater awareness of the medicine we are taking on. And it's also possible, since we are on the topic of lineage, that your own specific genetic lineage, your family lineage, doesn't necessarily want you to take on someone else's lineage. So then there's also that aspect, because our ancestors are with us. And our ancestors have suffered the depredations. They've suffered the starvation. They've suffered the cleansing of the land, the stealing of their land, the raping and murdering of their women, their people, their children. This is something very true for all of our ancestors. Now, it is particularly pronounced in India, in the United States, in Latin America, in South America, in the Caribbean, in Africa, but it also has happened in Ireland, it's happened in Scotland, it's happened in Wales, it's happened throughout the world. This isn't an exclusive pain point to one specific people, which is another reason that we should unite as human beings rather than separating and thinking that one way of being or doing is better than another. So lineage, there's the lineage that is your ancestral lineage, that is the lineage of your blood, your father and mother and their ancestors. But there's also a spiritual lineage. There's also the lineage of your soul lineage, which is far beyond this physical earth realm. So there are different levels of lineage, and your DNA, they say how many percent, some ridiculous number of your DNA is junk DNA. I venture that it's not junk DNA. It's simply DNA that hasn't been activated. It's DNA that has not been utilized in perhaps millennia. So every chance we get to study, to listen, to go within, to meditate, to connect with the land that we are on, to pay homage to the land that we are on, all of these are ways for us to retrieve and activate aspects of our lineage, codes, gifts. It also, going to different places in the world and taking different plant medicines or appropriating other cultures or other practices that are not native to your own physical lineage, that may also incur the retribution of karma, because it may activate something in your physical body that doesn't, it just doesn't jive well. The frequencies clash. And when frequencies clash, there is disharmony, which over time, if it is not dealt with, goes into dis-ease of the physical body. So there are different things to look at and to pay attention to when one is called to the spiritual path. Now, if your path, I think the Greek, it's quite difficult to find the true native indigenous practices to Greece. But I know some people that are working on activating those codes within them. And the thing is, if you are Greek, you carry those codes in your blood. You carry those codes in your physical body. So you can activate the remembrance of those ancient indigenous practices. And that's what I would really encourage everyone to do. Look at the native practices of your physical lineage first. Don't take on, okay, well, it's cool to be burning Palo Santo or salvia or white sage. There are other plant medicines. There are Irish, if you are of the British Isles ancestry, there are plant medicines like the rowan tree. I think rosemary also is a pretty universal plant medicine that is protective and purifying. Thyme is another one. Lavender. There are other plants that you can work with that will cleanse and purify. Regular sage, culinary sage, that also works well. There are other plants that can be utilized. There are other ways to connect with your spirituality, and your lineage is pretty much your key of activating this dormant DNA, this dormant wisdom that exists within you. And as we activate dormant wisdom in our DNA, of course, the old traumas, patterns, karmas, limiting beliefs, all of the old stuff that also gets passed down in our lineage, in our physical lineage, as well as our spiritual and soul lineage, all of that gets dredged up to be activated as well, to be transmuted. By activated, I also mean healed. I also mean transformed, transmuted, alchemized. Because energy does not die. You cannot destroy energy. This is a little bit why I find it funny. People who are, as much as I am pro-life, I'm also pro the life of the person, and it's that person's choice. Because ultimately, no one of us has the right to say what another being can or cannot do with their path, with their physical body. It's not our place. It's not our place to judge or to hold someone in contempt or to hold someone in a harsh light, because we don't understand what they went through. So we cannot destroy life. We can not give it a vessel. We can choose to extinguish our own physical vessel, but that doesn't destroy the energy that is our soul. That energy that is our soul, that is one with Allah, with the divine Mother, Father, God, Goddess, that energy transcends all, transcends this physical plane of existence. Your soul is infinite and expansive, and it chose this incarnation to express and to experience life as a human at this point in time. So energy cannot be destroyed. Energy can only be transmuted or alchemized or transformed or changed from one state to another. So whatever comes up within us, whether you do a Reiki activation, or you do a sound healing course, or you do a yoga training, whatever comes up within you to be transmuted, that reminds you of a painful experience or is a painful experience, all of that is valid, and all of that needs to be looked at and acknowledged and thanked, and then allowed to change and transform into another form. That is healing. Healing is to allow yourself to go through that rebirth, that death and rebirth process, that metamorphoses. And it's a very powerful path. It's very challenging as well. But the thing is that if you work on your lineage, on clearing your lineage, activating your DNA, if you do the work to align with your native practices and let go of the colonial mindset that turned your family Catholic or Christian or whatever, Buddhist, because that's my family's upbringing. My family, my nuclear family, something is definitely clearing with my voice as I'm recording this. Thank you. So if you hear the little scratchiness, like I said, every opportunity is a healing. Same goes for me. I'm no different. So my family was Catholic. Then they converted, quite a few of them converted to Buddhism. And I was born and raised Buddhist. And at one point, it just didn't quite resonate with me anymore, because it didn't work. It was too rigid, too masculine, it was too harsh, and it didn't allow for the unity, even though it spoke of the oneness of life and the environment and all things and unity and Buddhahood. It spoke of it, but in practice, in day-to-day life, it did not harmonize the masculine and the feminine, both within and without. It didn't. So I moved away from it, and I moved away from it at a point in time before they switched gears and got even more squirrely. So this is what I mean by going within to trust your intuition, developing your intuition and connecting with your own physical lineage. So my physical lineage, so as I started doing the work of my own inner work, my own healing, and doing my energy work and my sound healing, I started gravitating more towards the medicine of my ancestry. My family is Peruvian and Spanish and Croatian. And also Sephardic Jew. So I started working with the Andean medicine, working with the Wheel of the Year of the Andean medicine, and just connecting with the lineage of my ancestry. And a lot came up for me. A lot came up with colonialism. A lot of anger came up, and a lot of clearing with the masculine, with the father figure, with the land. And the more that I connected with the land, even though I was not physically on Peruvian land, I was in California, I was on Tongva land, but the more that I connected with that land, with the native tradition of that land, not so much by doing those practices, but by finding and remembering practices that felt natural to me physically in my body, the more that I was able to shift and transform and protect myself from squirrely energies, like the turn that the Buddhist organization went on before I completely disassociated. Well, I didn't disassociate. I separated myself and I cut all ties, because it no longer was a frequency that I wanted to be a part of. I was seeking to hold the frequency of oneness. Oneness, period. Not oneness only if you're Buddhist, not oneness only if you're straight or queer or whatever. Like, not conditional oneness. I wanted to hold the frequency of absolute, unconditional love, unity, and oneness and peace. And by connecting with my lineage through honoring the land that I was on, I was able to do this and to embody and to learn the practices that felt good for my soul. And then I was guided into going even more deeply into my lineage, and going into the lineage that goes into the Sephardic, the ancient Aramaic, which also is a part of my lineage through the Sephardic line. So for me, it has been a transformative journey to really embody all of those supposedly disjointed, I will say, aspects of myself. Because I kind of felt a little bit like a mutt, because I'm Spanish, I'm Sephardic Jew, I'm Peruvian, I have some DNA from the ancient slave trade. So it's like, what do I go towards? And I wound up finding the teacher that could really help me and support me, the teachers, plural, that could support me in uncovering those gifts that exist within me, and in transforming those patterns and the karma and the stuff that needed and still do need to be worked on. Because we will always have new fears, new stuff that comes up for us to see and to acknowledge and experience and heal. With that, I will say, it's a journey. Have patience, hold yourself in love, and don't give in to fear. Fear is a liar. Anything that separates you from your own infinite nature is a liar. It is a demon. It is a devil. It is whatever we call those lower vibrations that seek to separate and create chaos and manipulation and control. All of that. That's a lie of this world. We don't have to participate in it. Just because it's there doesn't mean we get we have to engage it, acknowledge it, see it for what it is, and then choose differently. Because ultimately, your frequency, your vibration, what it is that you choose to embody is really completely up to you. The life that you wish to experience is already yours. It's just a matter of, are you willing to peel back the layers of the stuff that isn't even yours, that you took on because you saw your mother or your aunties or your grandparents engaging in these patterns and you think that those are your patterns. It takes great courage to be willing to look at those parts of ourselves and those patterns and let go of them. Not with anger, not with disgust, not with disdain, not with judgment, but with love. Knowing that they serve their purpose for the time that they were in our life. And now we are ready to go into a different phase, to expand in a different way that our ancestors couldn't have even imagined. But they hoped. The life that we are living, the courageous life of letting go of the past, of resolving these traumas and karmas and lineage stuff, that's the work that our ancestors wanted to do, but they couldn't because they didn't have the opportunity to do it. It wasn't the right time. They were too busy trying to survive and raise their family. All of those are valid reasons why they didn't do the work. So we can look at them and judge them because how come I'm stuck doing all this heavy lifting? Or we can have compassion for the fact that they did the best that they could with the circumstances they were given. And we are the product of their hopes. We are the product of their, I'm getting chills. We are the product of their sacrifices. And we get to pay it forward, backwards, and all which way because there is no time. Time is not linear. So every action that we take in this moment to heal ourselves, to bless ourselves, to bless the food, to bless the water, to bless the land, to bless one another, those blessings go back to our every single person in our lineage, every being. Now you may think there are some people in your family you don't want to have those blessings, but you do want them to have blessings. Because if they hurt you, they did so because of their level of consciousness. They were operating at a lower frequency, and they hurt because of their own pain. So again, we bring in compassion, we bring in forgiveness, we bring in love, because that liberates us. And every being has their own journey and the own reasons why they chose to encounter certain things, their own contracts that they themselves got into before they incarnated here. So again, we really cannot and should not judge ourselves or one another for stuff that happened in the past. Send love, send healing. Send prayers. Because the more that we embody this unity, this unified field of consciousness, this source consciousness, this Christ light, the more that we purify those old wounds and those old hurts. And when we can forgive someone who has hurt us, we forgive ourselves. When we can withhold judgment from someone, we withhold judgment from ourselves. Because remember, that which we judge externally is a reflection of what is going on within us. There's something within us that we are judging, that we are refusing to acknowledge. So lineage work is deep. And lineage work is not the same thing as shadow work. Lineage work is simply connecting with your ancestral line, with the gifts and whatever blessings and whatever karmas and patterns we also need to transmute from from your physical genetic line. And if you were adopted, you can still connect to it. There are ways to find out. And if you can't find out, there is always going within. Because as I mentioned before, you hold the keys. You hold the wisdom codes within your physical body. So the more that you do your work, meditate, go for walks in nature, take walking meditations, do yoga, or engage in art. Some people are really good at channeling their art, and that's how they work through their stuff. Sound healing. There's so many ways. There is no one way. There's no one right way to commune with your soul, to connect with your body, to connect with the earth, to connect with the divine. Choose the highest light. Choose the highest frequencies of love to embody. And that will guide you into deeper awareness. Do research on your own family upbringing. If your lineage is from France, look into the regions of France and see what you can find about the ancient history, the myths, the legends of that region. If your family is from other parts of the world, you can do the same. You can also go places that are connected to those sites. And you can go into those places through meditation, through looking at a picture or looking at a bunch of pictures and reading books of that land, or you can physically take a trip. It's not, energy doesn't work. Energy flows. It doesn't just work when you are physically somewhere. It works when you are looking at pictures of somewhere, when you are reading a story that takes place in a specific location. Those simple actions of looking at pictures or reading books, that connects you to that land. Reading the work of authors that are from certain lands, that connects you to that work. Learning to speak the language of that land. Language holds codes. My energy changes when I speak French. It changes when I speak Spanish. It changes when I am chanting in Aramaic. It changes when I'm chanting when I was chanting in, what was that combination? Sanskrit, Old Chinese, and Japanese. Your frequency changes. If you're chanting in Gurmukhi and Sanskrit, your energy and your frequency change. Language holds the key as well as your physical body. So maybe you're attracted to a language and it might do well to learn how to speak that language, and that will activate new codes within you. So there are many ways. There's not just one. And there's research that we can do, thankfully, to uncover the practices of certain lineages. There's a wonderful Irish teacher. She is the founder and a teacher with the Celtic School of Sound Healing, and she's fantastic. And Carmel, if you're listening to this, I love you. She is absolutely fantastic, and she will teach you the plant medicine of the Celts, the Druids, and how to call the directions in that fashion. It's beautiful to listen. Even the fact that she is speaking Irish, which is Celtic, they weren't allowed to do that. Do you understand that the British, like the British, but this is not a particularly good part of their history, they didn't allow the Irish or the Scottish to speak Gaelic. Like completely obliterated so much of their culture with their colonialization. I believe they probably did very similar, if not the same thing, in India, where they didn't allow them to practice the yoga, to do their native practices. Why? Because what could they do by doing yoga and achieving the siddhis and the mantras and the mudras and the meditations? What could they do? They had supernatural powers. They had heightened levels of intuition, of physical endurance, of mental acumen, etc. So what did the British Empire do? They were like, no, you can't continue doing that. We are banning you from continuing your native practices. So there are cultures, there are so-called empires that engaged in this habitual practice of ethnic cleansing and cultural cleansing in order to establish their dominance. However, because of people like Carmel, because of people like Anna, one of my teachers, because of people like me, because of people like, I have a friend Maria who is studying and delving into the Greece, the lineage of Greece. So because of people like us, we are holding the standard and the anchor to connect to the ancient lineages in their purity, in their beauty, in their full expression. So for all those that are doing this work, that are actually opening themselves to receive the wisdom, to activate the wisdom within themselves, to honor the land that they are on, to connect with the land, I honor you, because it's not easy. And sometimes I know I feel I'm crazy, but I know that some of you may feel the same and may also feel alone, that you don't know why you're doing it, but something in your soul tells you that this is what you need to be doing. So take this as your sign to carry on, to continue to do the work, and to delve deeper into yourself, deeper into activating these wisdom codes, deeper into receiving the wisdom from the land, from the divine, from your own higher self. And that is what I have to say about lineage. Actually, I could probably go on, but I'm looking at the time, and it's this is a bit of a longer episode than I'm used to recording. So I want to thank you for your time. If you enjoyed this, do comment and let me know what your lineage is. Let me know what you feel connected to, because I did mention there's also spiritual lineage and there's also our soul lineage. So I will touch briefly on that. We connect with that by going within. We connect with that by also going towards the places that we are attracted to. That has to do with our soul lineage and our spiritual lineage. And by honoring the practices of that we receive, that we channel, because the channeling aligned with the highest light is really very powerful work. So if you enjoy this, like this, share, subscribe, comment, and join me. If you are interested in delving deeper into activating your DNA, join me for the Crystalline Sound Alchemy Sound Healing course. We are activating and embodying our soul essence. So check out the link if that sounds good to you. And I will see you next time. And don't forget to catch the sound activation that is companion to this. And it's really going to be a beautiful sound activation and very powerful, because we're going to be working with binaural beats. Have a blessed day. Ahava.